Welcome. This is Cashflow Savannah, episode 23. How are you, Chandler?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm good. This market's a little crazy. I wake up every day and I say, I wonder what's going to happen today. It just seems like I'm learning something new and I don't know. It's been a little crazy.
Yeah, slowing down for sure,
Yeah,
but
slowing down, which is
it's
making
typical.
me amp up because we go hard when things slow down. I love that.
That's that's what I like about this part is like I feel like sometimes you can catch that happy medium when things are slowing down and it's about to speed up because it's going to speed up next summer or next spring again. It's a good time to kind of catch that slow falling and then it'll shoot back up.
Yeah, interestingly, just speaking about sales, we're recording this in early, late October 2023. There's a house in Pooler, an old Pooler. I love old Pooler. I own several there myself. No HOAs. I like the big trees. Great location. And interestingly, it hit the market solid price, 195, 198 for a 3-2. And I said, oh my gosh, this is going into multi-ask. So of course I immediately went and showed it for a client that wanted it. And it's been, I think it's been a week since I was in there and he never jumped on it. He had something else going on. He said, I'll get back to you. And I was like, shoot, this is gone. But it did have an issue. It has a foundation issue. So it's not a perfect home by any means. That's why the good price. But we got an offer in on it today and it has no offers yet. Like I love when things are sitting. So we actually are hoping to get a nice price reduction on that just because I think the seller was expecting multi offers at that price and didn't get them. So we might end up getting a good deal just because it's October, because we know things are going to sit. The homeowners aren't really buying. People aren't really looking as much, so this is much more of an investor family market. It's been kind of exciting.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't really get into the news, but I've seen some people pop up and they're like, "Oh, interest rates are going to go down next year." Because somebody wants to be the president again, which
Yeah.
makes sense. What do you think of that? Do you think that they'll go down because most election cycles they tend to either gas prices or like it makes sense to lower the interest rates to it'll make people happier to get more votes. Do you think that'll actually happen?
I have no idea. I hate politics, but I do understand that they pretty much will do all of the parties, not just one, will
Yeah,
do
no, everybody.
anything to get reelected or to get elected. So I have no idea. I personally, I'm not banking on it. My guess from what I have learned and heard is that they're going to stay up till probably 2025. That's my guess, is that we'll start to see them come down then. But I truly have no idea. It's
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows, but I agree. I think they're going to do something to make things look really rosy, in order
Yeah.
to get reelection. I would too, quite frankly. If I were in that position, I would probably do the same. I don't know. I
I
have,
just saw that yesterday, and I'm still on the. They'll probably stick higher for a little bit longer. But I saw that and I was like, I don't know, but that makes sense.
I
Elections
truly
coming up, maybe they.
believe if they dropped interest rates right now, people would start buying like crazy. I
Oh,
really,
they would. I, as soon as they drop, it's prices are going to go right back up, and you're going to be sitting pretty. That's why it's always kind of a good time to buy right now.
yeah, something interesting that I read. I don't know how much this applies to anyone else, but banks make these mortgages, and to me, who's not in banking, obviously I use a bank a good bit, but to me, it's like, oh wow, banks are making all this money because I just got a DSCR loan. I'm gonna say September, maybe earlier this month. I can't remember. I'm sorry, it's a blur, but my DSCR was like 8.38 APR locked in, and I'm kind of nauseated about it. And I can't refi for 5 years. Like I can't. I'm locked in that rate. So to me, it feels like they're making all this money off of me. But what I learned recently, I thought was very interesting, is that the banks make these loans and then they immediately sell them off. Like they don't keep them and keep making that 8%. So you think that, again, as your average investor, I would think, oh, well, the loans that are 8.5%, basically, they must be more valuable than the loans that are at 5 and 6%. That math makes sense to me. But what they said was actually they're having a very hard time in the mortgage-backed securities market. They're having a hard time packaging these loans and selling them off because everyone knows that the second they drop rates, everyone like myself is going to go do a cash out refi. And I have to say, my buyers tell me the same thing. Well, I'm going to buy, I'm going to break even or make a small amount. And then as soon as it drops, I'll cash out refi. So not only are people going to buy when interest rates drop, they're also going to cash out refi. I would too. I will too. I mean, frankly, I will. So that's again another reason that I just don't expect them to go down in 2024, because they see this wall of built up demand waiting, and
Yeah,
that's the opposite of what they want. So
interesting take. I like that. That makes sense. I
yeah,
think it's gonna stick for a sec.
I think so. I just thought it was interesting that the banks are making less because they can't sell the mortgages as easily. I thought, well, that's interesting. I thought they were making more.
Yeah,
But
there's always deals out there though. So
yeah, I have a lot to learn. I've really been trying to educate myself on the bond market and the banking, but it's crazy because I'm so new at it that I'll be driving and then I'll have a thought which will tune me out to what they're saying, and then I'm like, wait, then they lost me. It's terrible. It's like really thorough attention isn't my specialty, and my brain kind of wanders, and I'll be like, dang, I have to listen to this whole thing again. Just
yep, I think
uh,
we all do that.
yeah, we wander. So anyway, but we have a great topic for today, other than the bond market and mortgage-backed securities. We want to talk about running rent comps, because Chandler and I are both investors here. I'm an agent, Chandler's about to be, and we only work with investors. And very proudly, we only work with investors. And as an investor, it doesn't matter what color the walls are. It sort of matters for the location, but what you want to know more than anything is what will the property bring in as revenue once you purchase it. So we want to go over this because I discuss it many times with my clients, and it's just so confusing. And especially when I'm texting, it just sounds all Greek. So I actually have every intention of using this as a teaching tool in the future. If someone has a question, Chandler and I are going to show you how we do it live and in person. And we want you to understand all the complexities that go with running rent comps. I have an assistant, and I've told people she'll run rent comps for you, but she's not an investor. So you can't expect her to know the ins and outs of the market. She's just going to pull a report, and then it's going to be up to you, the investor, to kind of go through that. And you, the investor, needs to understand that you can't count on anyone else to run your numbers. You need to run your own numbers. Would you agree, Chandler?
Yeah, no, absolutely. If I was buying something for hundreds of thousands of dollars, I would want to do my own due diligence and not rely on someone else.
Right.
So for sure, yeah.
I purposely am not going to run your comps for you and outline every little thing, because I don't want you later to go, I'm not cash flowing. You led me wrong. I'll give you the tools. But at the end of the day, when you sign that stack of paperwork to buy that property and start renting it, I want you very comfortable with what you're doing. That's just very important. As an investor, you need to get educated. Part of getting educated is just buying one and getting through it, but you also need to have the basic skills of running rent comps. So today we're gonna actually run through 3 different scenarios, and everyone needs to have multiple exit strategies. I typically would never recommend that you buy in a market where you only have one exit strategy. That's not good. Now, there are times, maybe there's an exception. Maybe you're buying a vacation home. Maybe you go to the Smokies all the time with your family. You want to have a home there. You want to write it off on your taxes. Okay. You're getting an investment property. So there's really only one strategy there, is you have to short-term rent that sucker. But here in Savannah, we have a lot of options. It's such a great market. That's why we have this podcast. We want you to be educated on the Savannah market. We want you to make money in this market. We want you to buy more and more and more. Hopefully use this for management. Like, we're here for you. So this is kind of our little gift to our fellow real estate investors.
You sharing your screen now? If
I will,
you're listening, I would highly recommend to go and watch. You'll
that's
get to see
true.
a little bit more.
That's true. You may want to catch this on YouTube. So Chandler and I are going to show you our favorite websites. You may have some yourselves. I also want to give a prop to Bigger Pockets. They do have a rental analyzer, and there are many rental analyzers. Chandler and I do not benefit from any of these options, but get a rental analyzer somewhere and put these numbers in, okay? And that'll really help you. There's more to doing investment than just running rent comps. You need to know the sales price. You need to know your APR, taxes, insurance. You need to expect for vacancy, capital expenses, things like that. Today, we're only doing rent comps. We're not going through analyzing a deal. We can do that in the future. But today we're just doing rent comps. So I am going to share my screen and let's see. Okay. Are you able to see Zillow now, Chandler?
Yep, I see it.
Perfect. So I'm doing this live. I'm picking a house. I am not using a house that I'm familiar with or that Chandler is, because I want you guys to feel that we're looking at it the way, just like we do when we're looking at buying for ourselves. Okay. So I'm getting something on market. Please don't call me out to some owner. I don't know them. I don't know the agent. I'm just going to go for it. But I want to alert you guys to something that's going on in the Savannah market that I see and deal with every day. So I'm purposely going to go in the South Garden area, right around the hospitals. Okay, so I'm zooming in on Savannah, Live Oak, Sackville. Okay, so here's South Garden. Okay, this is an area where I've invested pretty heavily. This used to be just not good, and now it's great. Not perfect, but it's great. So I see two houses here in the South Garden. Interestingly, one for $825 that doesn't seem to belong. That's just a lot. Interesting. It's commercial. Okay. So we only have one, and that makes it easy. So we're going to go on Ranger. And Chandler, you and I have spent a good bit of time on Ranger Avenue. Ranger goes right between all the streets, and we manage a lot in South Garden. We absolutely love it. So interesting that I pulled this up because Chandler and I have been speaking about this house. It's very overpriced. That's okay. That's okay. So typically in the South Garden, would you agree this is a 3? Okay, it's a 3-3, so that's good. 3-3s are usually around 300, 350 in this area. Would you agree, Chandler? Am I crazy there?
Brand new build, yeah, 340s.
340s. Okay. So this is a little overpriced. And we've already got a price cut of 15,000 as of October 14th. So that's what we're talking about, is like, as things sit, the prices kind of drop. This is a brand new build. And so it is going to have a higher valuation. And I get it. There's a huge value to you as the buyer to buying something that's a new build. But we're going to pretend like we're going to buy this as an investment property. Okay. We're not looking at this as somewhere that Chandler or I want to live. We're going to run it for comps. So this is 1229 East 69th Street. I'm very familiar with this area. It's a really great location in Savannah. And I purposely bought there years ago just because it's close to the hospital, and I could do the strategy, which I call a long short. It's now known as a medium-term rental. But anyway, so this house is $400,000. So I'm so sorry. Back of the envelope, I love the 1% rule when I'm looking at rental properties. My first thing, without pulling any info, is I want to make the 1% rule. And I'm going to say, okay, 400,000, maybe 410. I could probably get it for 400 at this point. Can I get $4,000 a month in rent? Because that's my initial thing, is like, okay, it doesn't need any work. Can I get 4,000 a month in rent? Okay. That would be kind of my goal. And if it's less than that, then I probably would want to get that for less. That's me doing that with no data, no analysis. It is 3 baths. It is a brand new build. You're going to pay a premium. So probably not. But anyway, so the address here, I'm going to copy 1229 East 69th. This part of Savannah, you cannot do a short-term rental. It is illegal. You will get caught. You will get fined. Chandler, I'm going to stop share just real quick and get signed into Rentometer. I'm so sorry. I didn't realize that I wasn't signed in. Just 1 second. Okay. I'm so sorry about that. We knew we were going to do this live, so of course I had to make a mistake. Okay, so Rentometer, I love very much. I pay for this. You will too if you want to use it. If you're running a lot of rent comps, I do think it's worth it. I think I pay about $100 a year for it. I have heard of people getting it even cheaper. So it is important to fill these things in. So it is 3 bedrooms. I do wish Rentometer had more options. This only goes up to 1.5 bathrooms. They've been like that for years. So what Rentometer is basically saying is that you're not going to get a whole lot more for 2 baths versus 3. I disagree with that. I would probably add on another $100 at least. I don't know what we're going to get, but ideally, when I'm searching for rent comps, I want to look close. See, looking a year ago at rent comps, that's not very helpful to me. I want to say what has rented in the last 3 months, if I can get it. Okay, I don't know. But ideally, I would be within 1/10 of a mile the last 3 months, but that's unlikely. So I'm just going to let it choose a smart radius. I wouldn't want to go more than 3 miles, but I'm telling you right now, and Chandler and I know Savannah very, very well. You go 3 miles from 1229 East 69th Street, and I mean, those are not rent comps. That you have to stay in a very tight area around the house because Savannah is very street by street, neighborhood by neighborhood. Ardsley Park is less than 3 miles away. Those are very expensive. And then also what some would consider the hood is definitely within 3 miles. And that is a whole nother comp. So you definitely want that as tight as possible. And then here under building type, I'm going to choose house and duplex because an apartment and a condo, that's a lot less desirable to a tenant. So it's going to drop the price. So you do want to make these as clear as you can. Okay. So I'm going to hit analyze. Notice also that in Rentometer, I have the choice to look at neighborhoods, zip codes, and by city. But in Savannah, I always use the address search. I want to know exactly what is close by the address. Okay. So here I have my address. And I love the map feature. So this tells me a lot. And again, the further out you go, the worse you're going to do. So just very quick calculation that Rentometer does. It's saying the average rent is $26.75, which I think that's decent, a little high. The median is $24.95, 25th percentile, $22.30 for a new build. I would never do the 25th percentile. And then the 75th percentile is $31.21. Now that's getting close to my sales price of $400,000. I mean, we're getting there. It's not as good as I'd like because I pay. This is kind of where you end on the free version. Okay. Because I pay, I can hit this pro report and it's wonderful. We can download this to a PDF. I can print it out for myself. I can do a lot. So showing a photo of the property, obviously this is before the house was built. So it's just showing a vacant lot. It's okay. I'm not here because of the pictures. It doesn't matter. Notice though, I'm very thankful because there are plenty of comps close by. So my radius is 1.5 miles. That is fantastic. That is why I chose this area. I know there's a lot of demand in the area and a lot of things going on. And I wanted to have enough comps. If it's telling you the best radius they can get is 10 miles, you probably have a problem. A good example of this, Chandler, I know you've done this too, is Pembroke, Georgia. Pembroke is blowing up right now. You can't get a rental. And I've had a million people ask me to pull comps. And I'm like, I'll try, but there's nothing. Even Rentometer only goes out 10 miles and you can't even find a comp within 10 miles. So you're really kind of guessing, unfortunately. So it's going to show you how where rents have gone. They really kind of tanked out in 2020 and then they've just really been peaking. This I find very interesting as a landlord myself with stuff trying to rent. I agree with this. We are seeing a dip in rental prices as well as sales prices. So watch these trends. That's very important. But it does say the fourth quarter average is moving, but just the rents are kind of coming down. So they pulled 31 comps. Minimum was 1,100. That's got to be really awful. And then the max was 4,500. And then in my map here, you can see my little house. So again, I am really not going to pay a whole lot of attention to these over here. Even across Duran, it gets very different. I would like to stay right within here, but there are only 2 comps. So this area is probably pretty similar. Do you have any thoughts on that, Chandler, as far as which ones you would accept? What do you think about the Daffin Heights area here as comps?
That can be similar. But yeah, I wouldn't go over Duran for sure.
Yeah, this part we know because we live here, and I know that my average viewer wouldn't, but this is much nicer over here. So as soon as you hit Duran, it's another $50,000 to $100,000 in value. So the same house over here would probably be a $450,000, $500,000 house, but in South Garden, it's less. So I'm really going to look very closely at these 2 properties. Okay, so the thing I like about Rentometer is that I can see the property details. So my sample size, and I forgot. Let me just look at the square footage. I'm so sorry. I should have looked. 1,300 square feet. We don't really rent by the square foot, but if it's 1,300, I know I can go from 1,000 to 1,500, but I'm not going to comp with a 3,000 square foot house, if that makes sense. So that's why I kind of like to know. So 1302 East 70th, rent is 2,100. Okay, and that's a great comp. That's a 3-bed, 2-house, and that's from October, which is this month. So that's a solid comp. Feels a little bit low to me, but it is solid. And then again, I've got confirmation 13. Oh, that's the same house, 2,100. That's so weird that they advertised it twice, one at 1,026 square feet and one at 1,300 square feet.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there.
Yeah, it's like they had it up in September and then they changed it. So anyway, 1301 East 67th is not too far. So this is the letter C. So, I guess A and B are probably using the same exact marker. So we're going a little bit more towards Memorial, and we have $2,400. And I'm going to check out the property detail. The other thing I like about South Garden is they tend to all be around the same size. So very good. Okay. The thing I don't see, I want to find an outlier. So 1202 Brightwood. Where is D? Okay. So this is over in Bacon Park. So this is just going to be a higher market. That's most likely, but we can look at that. So this is 3,450. This is 2,000 square feet. Okay, so quite a bit higher. It's in a nicer part of town, but it's actually pulling, probably lower per square foot than these others. The thing I was really looking for is an outlier. Let me see if this is one. This is what bothers me right now in this market is sometimes we have these outliers. This is only 0.82 miles away, 3,900. Now it is 3,000 square feet, but
well, that's why I think it's important to get the pro is because
yes,
like when you just go rentometer and you see just that basic average, it's pulling these 3,900s and 4,000s and just totally offsets it.
right,
And then another thing I want to mention is you pulled up one property and I'm just in that area so much. It was 2,400 and it showed the old photo of the house. It was kind of like a rundown house, but that house has actually been completely like redone and it's really nice now on a corner lot. So that's just some things that you got to keep in mind.
right, absolutely. Well, and the other thing that has been really messing with us, and I thought I would be able to find it here going in South Garden, is that people are starting to put furnished rentals on the market. So I was wanting to show that where you have to look at each property and just make sure that it's being rented. That's why I was pulling the listing. I pulled the rental listing here on Trulia. And
Very
it does
good.
not appear to be furnished. There's actually only one photo that's awful. But let me try one in the historic district. I'm just gonna make up an address. I want to see if I can get some really crazy comps, because one thing that's affected us running comps is, okay, here's a great one right here. Okay. I happen to know this street, and right across the street is a house that's fully furnished. So I'm guessing this is it. You notice how it says $6,000? 3-bed, 3-bathroom for $6,000. Well, as an investor, I would go, oh, sweet, I've hit my 1% rule. So let me do a little bit of research here. Okay. This is what I was trying to show you live. So we have, interestingly, the same house twice again, but let me see if I can pull a rental advertisement on this one. And a lot of off market. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm looking for a rental apartment. Here we go. 5,500 monthly. Okay. So now I found the listing. I found an outlier. Now it's my job to go, is that a true comp or is that not a comp? Now look at these photos. In the photos, normally for rent, you're going to see an empty home. This one is fully furnished in the photos. That's your first clue that this is probably a fully furnished rental. That's why it's $6,000. Okay. 31 night rental right here. Fully furnished, utilities, internet included. Okay. They call it the Goodman House. I don't own or manage this. I'm just finding outliers and explaining it to you all. So please don't think this is an advertisement or a call out. It's totally legal to do this. But this is what I wanted to show everyone. As you're running comps in Savannah, furnished rentals have really hit, right? With the 30 plus nights. So these are probably more average rent comps. But then when you see outliers like this, as an investor, you want to know that that's the rent, but you also go, okay, everything else is in the high twos, low threes, mid threes. Okay. So these outliers right here tell me something. And then once I did some research, I realized that's a fully furnished home. That's a 3-bedroom home with furniture, with utilities, with kitchen equipment, with. That's not a comp for a long-term rental. So as you're doing your comps, and this is for any market, I need you to comp very carefully. Again, my assistant or someone else, a monkey can pull you this report for Lincoln Street, okay, and send you the PDF. And if all you look at is this is skewed, okay? So it is important when you're looking at these rent comps to look at the neighbors and go outlier, outlier, normal, 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 outlier, outlier. Let's try it again. Call me crazy. I haven't run these comps, but let's try 619 Henry. I'll bet you this is a fully furnished home. Let me open a new tab here.
You said 19 Henry. You have to put in 619.
Oh, is it 619? Oh, thank you, Chandler. 619 East Henry, not for sale. Let's see. Here we go. Apartment guide. Here to go. A lot of times they're on Zillow or Realtor, but anytime I see apartments.com or apartment guide, I know that's the rental listing. Okay, so here it is, $5,000 a month. Let's see, is it furnished in the photos? That's my first question. Don't tell me they pulled it. Oh, that's so rude. Rude. Let me go back. I'm sorry. To see here, it's saying plans starting at 5,000. I'm seeing the old sales comps. Here it is, apartments.com right there. Apartments.com. You don't sell a house on apartment.com. You run a house. So here's the listing. Aha, furniture. Okay, we have an outlier. We have 5,000 a month that I saw that right here in apartments.com outlier. Okay. And then I've taken the address, which of course I have since lost. Oh goodness, I'm sorry. I've lost the one on East 69th. That's terrible. Brightwood.
Where'd it go?
I totally lost.
All right. All right.
There it is. I apologize. So you look at the photos, it's furnished. Let's read the listing. Fully furnished, utilities, internet included. Okay. So that is not a comp for a long-term rental. Now, this leads me into the question, how do you comp a medium-term rental? Okay. Chandler, when you first started with me years ago, what did I tell you? How did we comp medium-term rentals? I'm going to stop sharing. Things have
When we first started, and correct me if I'm wrong, we kind of just took the rent,
yes,
the long-term rent, and doubled it.
that's exactly.
It was kind of tough to pull comps on that, but we were kind of creating our own, really.
Right. We kind of set the market.
Yeah.
But
With dynamic pricing.
that was always our base rate, was long-term rent times 2, because the investor is going to furnish that home. They're going to fix it up, obviously, furnish it, pay the utilities. You need to make your money back. You need to get paid back for the furniture. You need to be paid for the utilities, the internet, plus you're expecting a large amount of cash flow. That's the whole reason you go into furnished rentals, is a great cash flow. So 2-3 years ago, it was very easy for me to pull comps for a medium-term rental, or what I would call a long short. I would go to Rentometer, I would pull the report would be accurate. I didn't have these outliers back then because people were not advertising on Zillow. They weren't on apartments.com. But now in 2023, we have a big issue. It's made our job so much more difficult because rents have gone up and then supply has also gone up. So comping has just become so difficult. It's no longer possible for me just to go find the long-term rent and double it. So as property managers here who work here every day, full time, all the time, probably half of the portfolio that we manage are these long shorts, 30 days or more. Comping has gotten more difficult. So we have to go more towards dynamic pricing to help us set these rates. It's very tough.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then AirDNA helps a little bit, but AirDNA is kind of tough because there's just a ton of outliers. Like everything's just so different. One can be with a pool and it's like super luxury, and it's just really tough.
Right. It is tough. So the other place we can look for long-term rental comps is Zillow. You don't have to use Retometer. You don't have to pay for anything. You can look on Zillow for rentals. You can look on Trulia. Do you have Zillow pulled up there, Chandler? Do you want to pull let me give you an address, 1312 Lincoln Street. Are you able to pull rent comps? Let's see what Zillow shows. Because on Retometer, I'm going to go back to my report. The average was showing $37.50 a month on Rentometer. Let's see what Zillow is showing.
Can you see this now?
Yes.
Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay.
So go to rent.
So we're on Zillow right now, and you just go and what address do you want to just random address?
I would click on rent above that.
So what?
Rent.
So,
and you can even just say Savannah, Georgia. But the address was 1312.
I want to show you what I can do is like right now I have these filters right here. And so if I put an address in, I can filter it out to rent right here. So I can either go, if you're just comping rents, I can either do for sale, for rent, or sold. And then you can put in your bed and bath, home type, and all that. Another thing that I love about Zillow, and is I don't pull rents from Zillow too much. I like Rentometer. It's just easier for me. But what you can do is like Savannah's kind of tough, and we'll use Garden City right here. I know this right here is like its own neighborhood,
It is.
and what I like to do is I can draw. So you can draw your neighborhood. And it won't comp anything outside of that area. So I really like that feature for Zillow. I use this more for comping like the price of the home, but you could very well use this for free too. It's for free.
Right.
And let's say we're in Garden City. This is right outside of Savannah, but yeah, it's a house for rent, 1,700 square feet for $2,300. And then I just exited out of that, and you'll see all the rents that are going through here. So,
well, and Chandler, give me your opinion on this. It hit me as I'm looking at your map. These roads provide a natural barrier, and when you're comping for sales and for rent, like I would stop at these main roads, because a lot of times once you go across the main road, like we were just talking about Duran is a huge road through Savannah, and it's comped completely different on one side of Duran versus the other. And I'm looking at your drawing, and you use the same thing. So that is one little tip I want to say for people, is to kind of stop when you hit a main road and, keep it there.
always. I basically use the roads as my lines.
Yep.
Like, let's say for this area, this Carver Heights area, yeah, I'm going to use this 516 road. I'm going to use 16, and then I'm probably just going to go around and then cut off through here.
Right.
That's kind of what I use. I can,
right.
I probably could, just because I know the area, like I could probably add this into that. But that's just because I know the area really well. But yeah, so you can see, I mean, that's a ton of rental comps that you can pull.
Well, and the Truman Parkway is a huge natural barrier as well. I mean, I would really watch that. I like how you drew that map. That was fantastic.
Truman's right here, and I would normally draw towards Truman. Yeah, that's one of my favorite things about Zillow is you can draw. It really just lets you narrow things down, because like, let's say, what's something to like
draw the historic district.
So we'll do, I was about to say, historic district is going to be so different. I would say it's about right. No, I want to say it's probably through here.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I would. You've got the whole west side. I would stop at MLK.
Yeah, no, I was going a little off.
Yeah, I would go MLK to Waters, but that's okay. Chandler and I know the market very well, and it's a little bit easier to do that. But look how that just really pared it down.
Yeah, so that's all the units will pop up. Then like Thomas Square is gonna be totally different.
Right.
And then I can draw in there if I want to as well. But wow, look at all those comps you get.
Yeah, but that's okay. So as an investor, again, you want to know the long-term rents. Even if you're planning to do a different strategy with the home, long-term running it is a strategy. So you might say, hey, I'm going to run this as a long short, but I also want to be aware of the long-term rental numbers so that I can compare them. And then if maybe it doesn't work out, I have to pull the furniture out. Will I still be able to cover my bills? Okay. So really, in my opinion, as an investor, you always start with the long-term rental numbers. We touched on this a little bit, but if you're doing medium-term rentals, it's tough to comp. I just want you to know you're probably going to have to use Rentometer. You're probably going to have to go to Zillow, and you're probably going to have to go to Airbnb and just search for 30 days, a 30-day window, and look at what's around and what they're charging. Like that's another really great way to comp is just to look on the furnished rental sites, put in some dates in that area and see what you get. I've done that many times where if I really have no idea, or if I'm talking to someone out of state and they're like, well, how do I price it in, Monroe, Texas or Monroe, Louisiana, if that exists, I don't know. I'll show them to do that. So medium-term rentals, long shorts, as I call them, that's difficult, but that's the way you do that. We're not going to show that live. Next, good.
That's the way that I've kind of found. It's not the best, but if you go on AirDNA, you can actually look at the top performing properties. It shows you the top 10. Like let's say we're in Pooler, Georgia, right outside of Savannah. You can see the top 10 performing properties, and then you'll find a 3-2 in those top 10 or whatever you have. And I kind of go based off of that because it gives you an idea. It's not perfect, but you're like, okay. And then here's what it looks like. Here's my competition. Like, how am I going to get somebody to book over this house that's performing really well? And it gives you a good idea for furniture too. Like, okay, this house is doing well furniture wise. It's nice. But that's what I like doing.
I totally agree. And you're actually leading right into where I was going next, which was
Okay.
AirDNA. So furnished rentals of any kind, and for especially short-term rentals, airdna.co is the gold standard. And I've had some AirDNA haters recently, and I'm like, I disagree. Like, you can disagree with me. It's okay.
Yeah.
But I
Please.
really like AirDNA. Now Chandler and I have paid access for property managers, and we want to give rental reports. If someone calls and they want Sid was here to manage for them, we need to show them what it's going to make. So AirDNA is very helpful, but it's not the only source that we use. So if you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen again. We're doing a lot of screen sharing today. This is different, but hopefully our audience is able to watch share screen. Here we go. Okay. So you should see on my screen right now AirDNA. Is that what you see, Chandler?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. So you can explore short-term rental data. And then I like this button here, property earning potential. So you mentioned Pooler, Georgia, one of my favorite places to invest. So I'm honestly making up an address. I don't know if it exists, but this is a street in it is.
You
Okay.
like Pooler, Georgia.
We love Pooler. Okay, shoot. 101 South Rogers. I was on Rogers Street the other day. There it is. Okay. I don't know if this exists, but it probably does. South Rogers Street does exist. Okay. It's a school. That's okay. So AirDNA is fantastic because a lot of times if you type in an actual property, it knows. And apparently South 101 South Rogers is 2 bedrooms, 2 baths. Their projected revenue is 51,000. Okay. So again, you're an investor, you have a sales price of say 400,000, and you can say, okay, it's going to bring in 51,000. This really helps you run your numbers. And this is not, hey, we hope so. This is a great number to throw at you. This is actual data based on listings. You can see here the map. It's showing you what's being made, just like what Chandler was saying. There's nothing here because I don't think there's actually a short-term rental there.
Yeah.
But we have one here. I'm going to go to the map, like what Chandler was saying. Bad and Boho, Savannah made $9,000 last year. That's very low with 71% occupancy. I'm guessing somebody lived there. And then we have one here on South Owens that made 39,000 with 67% occupancy. So this is what Chandler was kind of saying is you want to go look at your competitors and say, what was their occupancy? What was their revenue? The thing about it is that they may have rented off of off platform, like direct bookings or something, or Furnished Finder. That's not going to show, but the actual revenue is going to show that they booked from Airbnb and also VRBO. So even these numbers you kind of have to look at carefully. Here's a 3-bedroom home, 47.7 with 88% occupancy. I would say that's very accurate. I agree. Some of these outliers you have to say, I don't know, but what we want to look is things that kind of rhyme, things that start to look familiar. So 82% occupancy, 41,000, so these are great comps, and these are all close by to the address that I pulled up. So anyway, we look at, this is great for long shorts and also short-term rentals, but primarily we use AirDNA for short-term rentals. I also want to show you one other thing that I love, and that's data.rabu.com. Again, nothing to gain. It's a free site. AirDNA, Chandler and I are paying for this access. We pay about $132 a month, but I don't, there might be a cheaper way to do it. I'm not really sure, but I know that they do have a paid version, and a lot of people with 0 houses use it. So definitely check out AirDNA. So I'm going to go to data.rabu, and I'm going to say 101 South Rogers. Let's see. There it is. So we're going to go 2 bedrooms. Okay. We're going to compare data.rabu to AirDNA. And I love data.rabu. This is my second favorite site to pull info. Okay. Now, again, I see something here that rhymes. We're seeing about 40,424 per year. And then AirDNA was a little higher. They said 51.4, but we saw a lot of houses in the area in the 40s. So that's similar. It's around, $800 a month difference. But data.rabu has some really great info here. You can do your investment return calculator. I'm going to purchase it for 410,000. Let's see what it shows me here. Cap rate of 7.1, 9% gross yield. Cash on cash is 0.8%. Ouch. That's painful.
Yeah.
But it is what it is in this market. So anyway, we do want to share with you that option for your short-term rental comps, especially use AirDNA, use data.rabu, know your numbers before you even go look at a property. You need to know the numbers and see if the numbers work.
Yeah, for sure. Use all the technology you can.
Yes.
It's so.
Well, and Chandler, remember we had some kind of, I forgot what we called it at our meetup, and everyone had to comp properties and stuff in front of a crowd. And Chandler, you had a lot of questions about what websites you use and what apps you use. I'm more of a computer person, but I know you do most of it from your cell phone. So when you're on your phone, what apps are you using because I know you do a lot of quick comps of properties when you're in your car.
So I have an iPad too, so I use that. But I use a mortgage calculator on my phone if I'm kind of rolling and I just want to get a quick idea of what it would cost me if I bought the home on like a conventional loan or whatever, FHA or whatever.
And that's free, right? You have a free mortgage calculator.
Free mortgage calculator plus. That's what I use, and you put in the home price, you put in the down payment, you put in the interest rate, and then it lets you put in HOA dues if you have them, insurance, property taxes, and it just gives you an idea what your monthly expenses will be. As far as running from my phone, because I like drawing the comp, and I don't know. I spend about 5 minutes comping. I really want to not rush that because that's something you want to rush.
You don't want to buy a house and then have it rent for $1,000 less than what you would run your numbers. I mean, you should spend most of your time with comps.
But yeah, if I'm running and kind of just driving around, I see a property for sale or something, I'll kind of pull it up real quick and then I'll save it. And then when I get home, I dig in a little deeper.
So Chandler, from today, you can, what you're saying, you can run comps in about 5 minutes. And that's a good bit of time, to be honest with you. That's not nothing, that's a solid 5 minutes. But when you look back 2 years ago, and you were running comps running around Savannah, how much time did it take you then to feel comfortable that you understood the numbers?
2 years ago, it was
It was a lot
uh,
longer process.
it's tough, yeah, because some things you weren't calculating. Like a lot of people just won't even put in the capex, uh, and it's kind of when you're younger and you really want to deal. What you want to do is like you want to kind of, you know what, insurance that didn't really matter. I'm not going to put that in there. But
What?
because you're not like I don't do that, but some people want to do it. They really want to make that deal work. It'll be like $100 off, and you're like, oh, let me just knock this off, or like I'm doing something wrong, or the rent can be $100 up, whatever. You really want to make that deal work, and so you're trying to make those numbers work when they really just don't. So like, be honest with your numbers, just like because sometimes I'll see a deal and I'm like, oh, this would be such a good deal, and then I run the numbers on rents, and I'm like, dang, those rents are nowhere near what it should be. And I'm just like, all right, on to the next one. Like it just, but you really want that house because it looks really good. But
We see it several times a year. An investor buys a property, not understanding what they bought and what they can and can't do and what the rents will and won't be. And they're going to have to take the consequences of that. Sometimes it works out great and sometimes it does not work out great. So I cannot say strongly enough, take the time. I do want to give one more plug here for Sid was here as you were speaking. You mentioned insurance, and so many people don't think about insurance and things like that, flood insurance, whatever. So first off, you need to know if it's in a flood zone. A lot of times it'll tell you, does it tell you on Zillow? I think it does if it's in a flood zone.
sometimes the realtor will kind of throw it in there, but
Yeah.
some no.
Flood insurance isn't that much, but I'm going to share my screen again. We're doing a big screen share today. We don't normally do this, but I want to give a plug for Sid was here because Sid was here is for investors by investors. And that's the whole concept. And so when you're running your numbers, if you go here under property management, and there's this line here, it says protect your rental with landlord insurance. Okay. This is a company that we work with, and you can click here. We can put in the address, get the quote, and you can say long-term rental or short-term rental because you're going to get a different comp each time. Okay. So a short-term rental insurance is going to be a little bit more expensive than long-term rental insurance. So you can go to that link, you type in the address, give them the strategy. I'll rent it for 6 months or more, 6 months or less. Within 5 minutes, they're going to email you a quote. And then you're going to have a bona fide insurance quote. I use Steadily personally for several of my short-term rentals. They're great. And we have a link right there. So you can run it as much as you like. And that really helps you run your numbers because you want to know the taxes. You do need to know the insurance, and you really need to understand the rent comps.
For sure. I know some of my buddies that want to get into it, they like really see a house and it's like really pretty and like, ooh, I really want this one. And I'm like, dude, I just tell them, I'm like, stick with the math equation, don't get emotional. That's all I do. Just stick with the math equation, don't get emotional with it. And because it really is just a numbers game.
It is absolutely a numbers game, and you've got to know your numbers, be confident in your numbers, and then you go look at the house and then you make an offer on the house. But you don't do either of those things until you're comfortable with the numbers. I really hope this has been helpful. Savannah's a unique market, but Savannah isn't unique in that it's a unique market. Every market is unique. So no matter where you're investing, we want to just encourage you to use all the tools available. Some you might have to pay for, some they might be free, but definitely use those. And, my point with talking about how much time you're spending is the better you know this market, Chandler, the less time it has taken you, because you kind of know where the boundaries are. And when I started investing, I had 3 zip codes in Zillow. That's it. And every time a property hit in those 3 zip codes, I knew it. And I was running numbers. So I wasn't focused on the entire market. Even though it's a small town, it's way too big to be doing that. So I focused on those 3 zip codes that I personally liked. And when a deal hit that was below what everyone else was charging, I started running numbers. I wouldn't run numbers on every house, but I knew the price per square foot. I knew the average, sales price, da, da, da. So let's say the average price was 150 and a house hit at 120. I was like, oh, that's a reduced price in that zip code. I'm going to run numbers on that. And very quickly. It just, I got good at it very quickly because I was focused and I really didn't kill myself running numbers on 100 houses, only the 3 that I knew were possible deals.
Yeah, for sure. That's once you run like numbers like consistently, there's like to a point where you don't really have to. You kind of like I see the sales price, I know they're in the area, and then you kind of go, all right, I can do this. Now you still want to go look at the numbers, but you at least know you're not spending kind of like that house we just saw that you shared the screen with the brand new build, 3 bedrooms, 3 baths. We would never even spend time running numbers on that because we'd see it and go, no way, on to the next one.
That's very true. Right. No, it's price for a home buyer, not for an investor for sure. But
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
thank you, Chandler. This was a great amount of information.
Yeah. Well, if you enjoyed it, please come back and listen to us. And I would highly recommend going and watching this episode though. And then we'll see you in the next one. Thank you.
Bye.